If there's a good God, why is there evil? Here are 20 assumptions you're making when you ask that question. Assumption number 1. The universe exists. In order for you to say that evil exists, you have to assume a universe exists. You're in the universe in order to ask that question. The second assumption is you exist. You have to exist to ask the question. It's self-evident. The third assumption is other human beings exist. Why doesn't God stop evil somebody else is doing? You really think about yourself doing evil. But if God stopped all the evil in the world tonight at midnight, none of us would still be alive at 12:01. The fourth assumption you're making, consciousness exists. You have to be conscious to even think about the question. As soon as you ask the question, you're proving it exists. The fifth assumption is that truth exists. Truth is necessary. Truth grounded in a mind, but not a human mind, because truth existed before humans, but an ultimate mind, the Creator's mind, God. The sixth assumption you're making is that you can know truth, because if you're asking a question, you're assuming that you can learn the answer. The seventh assumption is that free will exists, because you have to be able to freely follow the evidence where it leads. Because in order to make the question even coherent and not just determined by the laws of physics, you have to have the ability to ask the question based on the evidence that you can ascertain with your mind. And you're assuming you and other people have the free will to answer it. The eighth assumption you're making is that your senses are reliable. You need reliable senses to know whether something that is good or evil has actually happened. The ninth assumption you're making is that your mind tells you accurate truths about the world around you to determine if something is evil. The 10th assumption you're making is that human beings are objectively valuable. Because if you're going to say that, say, a virus which kills people is a bad thing, you're assuming that human beings are a good thing and that they are valuable. But how are human beings subjectively valuable if there is no God? It's just your opinion against somebody else's opinion. Number 11, you're also assuming that health and human flourishing are objectively good, and we should do whatever we can to try and help them live free of evil. Number 12, you're assuming an objective purpose to human life. You can't tell whether something is good or evil unless you know what the purpose is. Just like playing Monopoly. If you lose all the money or you win all of it, but you don't know the purpose of the game, what does it matter? It's meaningless. So there's got to be a purpose to human life to say that some things are evil or good. You can't say that if there's no purpose. The 13th assumption you're making is that you can know that purpose. Because if you didn't know the purpose, you couldn't say that a particular outcome or a particular action was evil unless you knew what the purpose was, and you knew that outcome or that action frustrated the purpose of life. Number 14, you're assuming, of course, evil exists. In order to even mention evil, you have to assume it exists. But if evil exists, that leads to assumption number 15, good exists. A standard of good. Why? Because in order to know what evil is, you have to know what good is. Because evil does not exist on its own. Evil only exists as a lack in a good thing. So you're assuming a standard of good in order to have evil at all. You're presupposing that good exists. But good, in an objective way, can only exist if God exists. A 16th assumption is that human beings have moral obligations, and when we do evil, we are not following those moral obligations. Number 17 is that things ought to be different than they are. This shouldn't be happening. People shouldn't be getting sick. People shouldn't be hurting each other. That's not right. Well, as soon as you say not right, you're assuming something is right. When you're assuming there is evil and things aren't going the way they should, you're assuming that there is a standard beyond humanity that has set all this up. Number 18, you're assuming this universe is designed. Otherwise, you couldn't detect evil when things fall short of the way they were designed to be. Number 19, you're assuming that God should stop evil because he's good, powerful, and loving. And the 20th assumption you're making is God has the power to stop evil, which makes logical sense. Since God was powerful enough to create and design everything, any distortion or decay within anything will fall under that power. So, why does God allow evil? If you think God is infinite and can intervene to stop evil, you must also acknowledge that the same infinite God has reasons you don't know about for not intervening in the time and the way that you would like. In other words, if he's an infinite being who knows all things, he might have reasons for not intervening right now the way that you would want him to intervene. If you're going to say he's all-powerful, then he's powerful enough to know the reasons why he shouldn't step in right now. Christianity is the only worldview which explains why there is evil, which is God's creatures started evil through the illicit use of our free choices. So then God enters the bloodstream of humanity to take evil upon himself as Jesus. And by trusting in what he's done, you've accepted what he's done. And God, therefore, will bring you into his presence and will not quarantine you in a place called hell.